I have with me some brilliant people who we will share ideas and we'll discuss. Malik Ahmad Jalal, a great organizer, a great thinker. Adam Daud, a young wizard on the e-commerce side. And we will debate and we will discuss and we will open this concept that what nations can do on a fast-track basis and how Pakistan can do it. So my question to you, Malik, is it possible that you see in the current political environment, the government could say, other countries have done it, what will it take for us to become leader on the entrepreneurialism? And let's try to bring all the policies in such synchronization that we will respect them, we will work with them, we will open doors for them, we'll provide them all the facilities and so on. And so what are your thoughts? And then, of course, to continue on that, Adam, you represent the young and the dynamic opportunities that you see around you. And do you think that is this a possibility that a government could do it? And do you see now with so much technology that you could really make things not just for one Ivy school club and not one super startup incubator, but across the nation, across the places, and say, hey, this is how we want to go and do it. And there are other countries who have done this example. Please.
So, Nashiro, thank you very much for having me, and thank you, Octara, for this honor of speaking to the world through your platform. So my simple answer to that question is a no. I don't think governments are capable of very complicated steps, synchronization, sequencing, value changing of people. It's just governments as a policy. What you say is that they can enact through policy, they can do that, and I'm very skeptical of that. Wherever and whenever it has happened through social movements, it has happened through other forms of within the community or society changes, and then the government catches up with it and legislates to formalize those new norms, those new customs. So I'm first of all, it's not just the Pakistani government. I'm skeptical. It's most governments in the world will not be able to do that. So, you know, we were talking about revolution, and I do say revolutions because they are a time of great shift of consciousness, of movement, of human thinking, mindset, society. But the most fascinated by, one of the least violent form of revolution was the industrial revolution. Because if you look at human growth and human trajectory, before it was like this. Literally what you call a Malthusian economy. It was hardly human beings were surviving, huge famine and everything. And suddenly this thing happened and it just went like that. And it has been. And now we are at the cusp of another revolution called the digital revolution. Some people call it the fourth industrial revolution. I call it digital because we're going from industrial to digital age. So what prompted that? I think, and there are tools for it, which basically tells us what can happen. And I think a date is very important, which is 1648. So what happened in 1648? That was the date when the intellectual property right was instituted in England. Mm-hmm. So the most important element of entrepreneurship is that my sweat, my toil, my effort, what I do, what I invest, will it be protected? Will I be able to reap the sweet rewards of what I work? And if you see that, there is the period of 1648, which is pre-industrial revolution, but that was a very critical moment because that ensured that if you had an idea and an inventor, if you're Stephen Robinson, you know, with the printing press and everything, that you would work hard, you put your money in, you spend 10, 20 years of your life, but your intellectual property right is protected. That's just an example of that, and that has led to a spate of risk-taking entrepreneurialism. And I feel that property rights or protection of property rights and intellectual and physical property rights is very important. And I think in a country like ours, where intellectual property is not protected, where property rights can be usurped through different means, through power and coercion, is definitely a deterrent. And I think we need to provide at an institutional level, the government has to provide the right legal framework and the right protections for someone who puts in his effort for his ideas to be protected, number one. And then for the effort and the work that he does, the physical property rights, they need to be protected. This is very, very critical, and this is the first time. Without that, why should I work hard if some big guy is going to come and going to usurp all the work that I've done? So number one, I think that is very, very important. The number two element of that is a change in culture, which people talk about, is because ours is a risk-averse culture, and ours is a culture which talks about, we're driven by brands and driven by what looks good rather than anything else. That is a very difficult challenge, for that matter, because that is deeply embedded. Working in the civil service or the military or the Unilever is so much better. Are you an entrepreneur? Really, you're a lazy guy. You don't know, you can't get a job, so you're an entrepreneur. And I think that the only thing that can overcome that, and I saw that in Jordan, which is a small country, is where they had an exit of a company that sold to Yahoo in 2009. I'm forgetting the name. Suddenly, you had an example. Suddenly, you had a moment of crystallization of that if you work hard and if you're an entrepreneurial person, and then it succeeds and you have a big payoff, then, and suddenly you're a hero to the global media and everything. That hasn't happened to that extent in Pakistan, I would say. I would say that to some extent it has happened. Some of the bigger companies like Daraz and Zameen.pk, they have had good rounds of investment, but I'm talking about $100 million exit coming out of Pakistan. That is going to change culture, because for that moment, people will have an example to look at and say, wow, I can be like that. So I think that is what we need, and that is what we're fighting for. Everyone says, hey, let's create 1,000 successful stories. I say, I want one. I want one to really blow past all projections, $100 million exit from Pakistan that will show everyone that if you work, so of course it may not succeed, then you will, if you work hard, you will get a huge payoff, and you'll be successful, and you will have respect in our country. And I think that's what we're waiting for. I think that until that happens, and I hope Yevo is a company that does that, or the others are able to do that to that extent. I think we are not far from that, but I think that is what we need. We need an example, a crystallization of that moment that it pays to be an entrepreneur.
I thought that was done years ago. There are so many models that have been applied in so many other countries that can be incorporated in a customized fashion to fit the local numbers and the local psychology and whatnot. But I would say, revolution or no revolution, we have argued recently, as recent as 5 years ago, that come 2030, the question will be asked, why do we need governments? Government outside defense and security and whatnot should be managed by one building, and that's with the high artificial intelligence, and that's that. What the government does, all the distribution of the money, collection of the taxes, the road, the this, all controlled by artificial intelligence. Policies, export, this, quota, bonuses, awards, all done by artificial intelligence. So if you eliminate that bureaucracy and all that, that's a different topic. Governments must demonstrate for their own survival that they have the expertise to do this. Otherwise, they have no role. Because political rhetoric is evaporating. It's available in social media, and from social media, after that, it has no other place. People don't want rhetoric now. They want hardcore issues. They don't want these political things and all that. So government has the responsibility to come up with intelligent programs and put ideas together, have forums, have discussions, have models, test them out. In the last 50 years, I left Karachi 50 years ago. The last 50 years in North America, Canada, 50 years service, at least 50 major life-altering campaigns and policies on economical development. Major, like our venture investment program for immigration. You've got over multi-million immigrants that have come from all over the globe to that because you bring in $1 million and you get that. There are all kinds of things, and there are incentive programs. So you apprenticeship program, the training program, subsidize this program, export promotion program, all kinds of things. Pakistan has done it too, the TDAP, the this, the that, and whatnot, and so on. But until and unless there is a agenda to say, if there are 100 doubts, how can we create something that is more logical and more sensible and all that. By the way, I come from a country, oh, by the way, the word entrepreneur 25 years ago was considered some insult in the financial institution. If you were an entrepreneur, you should leave the building. Okay? Fact. Fact. I remember 30 years ago, my entire staff could walk in and by having a job letter of my company, could drive out a brand new Cadillac. But I couldn't because I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the self-employed. I am the risk. I am the risk. What will happen if the tire of that Cadillac were to get flat? But my whole team can get it, no problem. I come from that background. So the word entrepreneur only came about in the last 6-7 years after exhausting of all the other things, because then there was 10 years of small medium. Everybody went after small medium. Then they realized they couldn't do anything till they entered into entrepreneurialism, because they said, oh, these guys with all the degrees, they really can't do it. Let's bring somebody else and so on. Now, 100 countries have an entrepreneurial program today. I think Pakistan is ready, but what we are talking about is a National Manifesto. What does it take for a government to say, these are our 10-step program, this is our 2-step. By having an entrepreneur week is not the solution. By having a Women's Day, they think they've solved all the women's problem. No. Entrepreneurial Manifesto and the national mobilization is a blueprint that you say, all right, we're going to allow this in the high school, in the university, we're going to select people, we're going to create this, and we're going to create 5,000 or 100,000 entrepreneurs and culture them and do that, just like the way they go out and Russia said, we're going to be winning all the 1,600 medals, so we're going to train 1,000 in football and gymnastics and this and this, and they did. You think it was by accident that Russians were better performers? No. It was a national program. It ran like a KGB operation. They literally went into the villages and they said, oh, this one has got the best legs. He's going to be runner, expenses paid, everything, fly out, this, did that. 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the road with the gold medal picture, that's how it is done. So we go out as a country, develop all kinds of manifesto on nonsensical projects. Why can't we do it for entrepreneurialism? Why can't we do it for women entrepreneur? Why can't we do it for transformation of society? Do it as a focus. Because we have one weapon that never existed before. It's free and it's technology. Technology allows us the measurement, the performance, the accessibility, the communication. What are we doing here? What is this? This is a communication device. Now, amplification, replication of all these ideas, this is how they bounce. So, I'm going to go back to you. Try to change your mind. Do you think within the Pakistani government or with the Imran Khan government, with the PTI, you think there are some people who would say, at least explore it, let's talk about it, let's see how it works out?
So you want me to be realistic or you want me to be optimistic?
I want you to be realistic and then be optimistic, so this way we can slide into the passage.
Okay, I'll try. Realistic I have to be. I think, as I said, my point was, governments in terms of extreme level of coordinated activity, sequencing is very difficult for them to do. If you want to say, like, I'm here and I want to get there and I have to go through a dance like this and I want to get there, Governments are not meant to do things like that.
But those people are going to go out of the window because the future will force them out of the window.
Yes, but they don't see it like that way because they don't see the future like that.
It's happening.
Well, when it happens,
It's happening in
civil
places,
services of
yeah.
all over the world are traditionally very risk averse and not prone to change. And there's a reason for that, because if they were risky and so dynamic, the whole country will be going in all over the place. So they're designed not for that. Secondly, I think we look at it because we have a very unique vantage point. I think most people would not see that the government role would change. So I think it's going to be very challenging. So if I am very realistic, I've seen many 5-year plans from 1960s to 1970s, 1980s, and look where it has done, and it hasn't achieved that much. Pakistan's performance in terms of GDP growth, in terms of wealth, in terms of human development indicators is much worse than it was 40 years ago. And the gap is increasing. I mean, our colleagues who used to work in Africa, they used to say, in 1980s and 80s and 90s, Nigeria or Kenya would never be compared to Pakistan. And now they are much better in terms of human development indicators and economic growth. Sure. So we are the gap. I think people don't realize it. Not only that we are at least stagnating or we are going down, but the gap is actually widening. And I think we better get hurried up on the National Manifesto. And much that I would love the government to do it, because that's the easiest thing to do, to mobilize the civil service, mobilize people to government to do it. I don't think that's the way change happens. I think change happens at a very grassroots level. Change happens like this organization, like Adam, people like that. I call them positive deviants. It's positive. They are the entrepreneurs. They're the first one. They will never have the government support or anything, and yet they will bootstrap it, and they'll build something, and someone will hit a jackpot, and then suddenly every day one will realize, oh my God, there is a great thing which is called entrepreneurship. Let's all do it. And then the government will come, and then naturally what they'll end up doing is they'll do something very wrong to it, and but hopefully they'll do the right thing. But that's how change happens, I believe. I think it oozes up from the grassroots. It's very incremental and it's very emergent. It's not deliberate. And I think that's why I think whatever initiatives there are, Israel government is a very, very well planned. It's a small country. I mean, we are a much bigger country. Singapore has a similar plan like that, a fund that they have. So my thing is, I think, and I've always focused on that, I think what the role of the government should be, and actually the role of development, this is my development philosophy as well, that most of the time when you're a PhD and you come into a country and you look at, I need to sort this out, so instead of coming with a solution and an answer, you come with a question. What works? What doesn't work? What is working here? I'm sure there are people out in Pakistan, they are working here. That works, and they are, as I said, I was talking about the Pakistan Fast Growth 100, which is a ranking of 100 SMEs. In the year 2009 to 2011, there were 100 of these companies that were growing 83% per annum. That created 14,000 jobs in those 2 years when Pakistan went into an IMF package. So they are what I call the positive deviants of a society, because whilst the economy is going down, they are going in a different direction. So what do we need to do? They are the solution. So if you can find them, scale them. If you find them, help them, support them. If you find them, try to replicate them. If you have 100, instead of 100, if you have 1,000 or 10,000, Pakistan's destiny and nature would be changed. So I think that is what the government, I think the policy of the government should be, to create some of the schemes. So for instance, they should provide research grants, for high-end research grants to entrepreneurs. And okay, I want to do this thing in AI or fintech and everything. Okay, the first $500,000 write off, you go and spend it. We'll hold you accountable for spending in the right way, but you do it. You go about it. It's a market break, because there's no market to fund high-end research for it. The government should do those things like that. So I think government has a role there, but you cannot expect the government to solve all problems, because the government cannot solve all problems. You have to look at what are the problems that people are facing, what are the entrepreneurs are facing, and try to solve 1, 2, 3 at a time, and then eventually hope that there is a JEVO which makes $100 million or $1 billion exit from Pakistan, and then people say, wow, I want to do that, and let's work way back what they did well, and let's try to do that.
What is in your estimation, in terms of lack or missing, what do you think is the most critical thing missing in the mid-sized economy right now? Let's say 5,000-10,000 mid-sized businesses, first, second generation, that have done very well, but now they are at a standstill.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of standstill operation right now across Pakistan.
So I think there are two things I would say. I think we lack Immanuel Kant. We have Iqbal, and Iqbal is great, and Iqbal is all about Shaheen and the rise and the shaman in the mountains, all about passion and emotion. But we need Immanuel Kant, who's a German philosopher.
Sure.
And his was, how do you find excellence in everyday life, in small things in life? Are we a disciplined nation? Absolutely not. Do we do things with care, with due rigor and everything like the Germans or South Koreans or the Americans do? We do not. And the reason, it's a joke. I talk to the German friends and say, we have Iqbal, but actually if we have Kant, we have the passion to match with the discipline of it, the execution, the operation. That's what. And I think that's where we lack. I think not only we lack in the SMEs, we lack in the large corporates, because the large corporates haven't done much. Which is the Reliance of Pakistan? Which is the Bharti Airtel of Pakistan? Which is the Tata of Pakistan? There's nothing. They have done very well in Pakistan, which is in essence a closed economy, lot less competition coming from outside. But excuse me, India was, very closed, and they had in 1991, 92. But look at the large corporates, the Tetleys of the world they have. They're globally competitive. And because their workforce is competitive, whether it's skills development, which we are lacking, or discipline they're lacking. So first thing I think is the right training and mindset of discipline and skills education that is missing, number one. Number two is mutti kholna, meaning open up your fist, particularly for sponsors. And I always talk about that. Equity share, please share equity with people. If there's one concept that that the Canadian, the American, the British, all these are based on, is that, look, you and I may be the big guy, a big honcho, and I am the guy who's set up the business, but you should have the right value system and right alignment, and you're a good, hardworking guy. Say, man, I've got to tie you in. Here is it, 5% of my equity of the company. Suddenly, you have every right to the upside, but also the downside of it. We don't do that. Our family businesses are normal businesses, and everyone, we don't do that. That's the most powerful tool. Our nation, our people need to feel ownership of the things that they're involved in.
Then there's the whole thing of innovation. Where innovation comes from? Somebody said, we should do innovation. We should invest in innovation. And I said, well, innovation is really free. All you need is an innovative mind. And an innovative mind does not require investment. It really requires being innovative and so on. So with all these issues, with all these things going on, and you being such an intellectual and so articulate about it, there gotta be a way that if you were confronted and you had this mandate, how would you go about and say, let's do something small, or let's do something like you were talking about the top 100 SMEs. Excuse me, or the top mid-size, ranking of the top mid-size or something. But the ranking and all that, those are photo opportunities, and that's for taxpayers and not taxpayers to worry about. We're talking about performance, we're talking about things that are visible and they are out of their control. What do you think would be a starting point for the mid-sized economy to say, okay, we can try something along that line or do something?
Someone said that life is simple but not easy. We try to make it easy, that's why it becomes complicated. So, it's true. So,
true.
So in a way it's very simple, but then we make it very complicated. I think it's a very difficult question that you asked me, and frankly I haven't, thought about it to that extent. But I think I always believe in two things. I'll apply certain principles that I look at it. I always look at micro and then the macro. Micro and the macro. You have to work on both areas.
Sure.
And you have to keep it simple, and you have to do a few things. What are the 2-3 things? And I think would be different from yours and everything. So I think at the micro level, I think you have to just, and micro level is a more difficult one. At a micro level, you have to change the schooling and education system from the grounds up. And you have to make it more values-driven, tacit education, tacit skills, as you said, that based on that. And less on rote learning, more on critical thinking. As I said, 5 C's someone mentioned. One of it was critical thinking, one was communication, one is collaboration, and there are 2 other C's I'm forgetting at this moment. But focus on those things rather than just rote learning and rote behavior. So that's what I do. But that's a 3-generational project. So you got to work on that. But you have to work, as I always say, there's no, the best time to have started on it was 1 generation ago. But the second best time is to start now. So I would like it to start now and to really reform the education system and make it much better. And there are different models out there, number 1. Number 2, at the macro level, I think, as I said, is that, which is what I call around culture, institutions. I think the culture of accountability, merit, broad value system of that if you do good, you will be recognized. If you do bad, and you could be from a certain tribe and as the head of a tribe, it will not work. That is not difficult to do. Actually, it's very simple to do, because all you have to do is you have to set 2, 3, 4 examples of people, and it'll happen. It'll just quickly change the mindset of people that, it doesn't pay to not pay taxes. It doesn't pay to keep 2 books or 3 books and all those things, because and if it actually pays to be very transparent about your taxes and about what you earn. That is a very simple thing. I think that is actually a simple thing to do, but it's not an easy thing to do. Sure. One of those things, because of course there's political difficulties one would get for that. And I would focus on that, and I focus on 2 things. I would focus on merit. I'm big on merit. I think any country, any society that has progressed over centuries and millennia has replaced or has been able to replace the tribal system, the tribal affinity, me, my uncle, my aunt, and this, and reliance on that, broken those bonds and replace it with a system of merit, whereby I know that I don't have to rely if my cousin is in that position, because I don't trust the system, but I trust my cousin, and of course if he's there, I will be looked after. But I say, no, I trust the system, there's merit, and it doesn't matter if my cousin is there or Dawood is there, Adam is there, it's the due process will happen. I will get my due share, which is, system of merit. I think that on one end is very, very important. And the other one is system of accountability, which goes hands in hand with merit. If you do well, you will get recognized. Your property rights will be protected. You will make it rich. Nobody will come and take your money away just because they're more powerful than you. And if you do bad, then you will suffer the consequences of the law. And I think that is not a difficult thing to do. It's a simple thing to do, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I would work on those 2 things, and that could have very quick benefits. So suddenly you got someone who said, wow, you know what, I have a chance. Suddenly, wow, if I'm not the downtrodden, poor person that I will never win. I can one day win against the big guy, and I can earn and I can make a name for myself. That hope has to be there, and that can only happen when you have a system of merit and accountability.
I think what you have done is just reinforce the fact that the Imran Khan and PTI have a monstrous challenge to turn things around and to create what you talk, the due diligence and the compliances and the audits and the taxation, and for Pakistan to become a little bit more independent and self-reliant. Yes. And all that, and education and whatnot. But to keep it on the simplicity side, we are just focused on the mid-size economy. We're just saying that there are some very simple rules of the manifesto that they could adopt slowly, systematically, to help these ideas and these things, and to also create some intelligent forum where these things can be discussed a little bit, few steps above than what the current agencies and the current mandated bodies have demonstrated so far, or just these photo ops and lip service and these plastic award nights should be replaced into hardcore substantive issues and so on. And to bring cutting edge ideas and let it challenge and let it be laid out vis-a-vis other countries and whatnot and cross-fertilization. I can't thank more than what these guys have done. Brock came out very boldly, very sincerely, very passionately. I want to thank Malik. I want to thank Adam. You've been very generous with your time to come and join us. And we would like to continue. And then I would very much like to see what Claire Novak is about to say now.